Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day, and keep your main thing the main thing. Keep your main thing the main thing. I got an old Chinese proverb quote for you all that I love, and those close to me have heard me recite a million times. And even still, I've had to remind my own self of this a million times. So even if you think that you got it, you got to really hear this one clearly, because I try to pride myself on being coachable and seeking out wisdom. And I've sought out wisdom from others, and this was given to me, and I still didn't 100% execute to the T. And so I wanted to give you the man or woman who chases two rabbits at the same time catches none. Catch your main rabbit. And so the man or woman that chases two rabbits at the same time, so you picture, man, we let two rabbits out of a cage and we got to go catch them, you know, and one person's running around trying to catch two rabbits. You got to go catch one rabbit, because if you try to catch two rabbits at the same time, you catch none. In building, I see many people focus on too many things in and outside of their businesses in order to become great at the rate that they wish to become great. And you'll see, you know, there's a lot of confusing things that get thrown at young people, you know, certain quotes that people run with, such as, you know, you need 17 streams of income, or you need 6 streams of income, or you need, you know, whatever. And I think as cool as it is to hear, and as much as that sounds cool to have happening, and it's not that I completely disagree. I think that people can get themselves too spread out too soon. And then when in reality, your one big stream of income is what over time can create other streams of income. And I think young people want to rush that process, so they just start trying to open up 7 streams of income, and they chase a bunch of rabbits, and they end up finding themselves down the road. They caught none of them because they didn't go all in on one thing that would bring the mainstream of income consistently. And so I just want to encourage you to focus on your main thing. What are the main activities that impact your outcome and income the most? So what are the main things? What are the main activities that impact your income and outcome, okay, the most? What are the 1 or 2 things in your business or in your life, in whatever you're chasing right now? What are the 1 or 2 things that you could focus on that would make the biggest difference in you getting better? And then what is your main business? And if you haven't gotten it yet, that's okay. But if you got it, let me just give you some examples. It all depends on what type of business you're in, if you're in business at all, you know, how you're paid. But just let me give you an example. I myself, you know, I have a couple friends of mine that blessed me with the opportunity to ask them questions that have reached the status of billionaire. And so I get an opportunity to sit down and pick their brains. One is in his 60s, one is in his 70s. And so the gentleman in his 70s, I remember sitting down with them, and I was all excited. I was just starting to stack some big money and had some money set to the side. I was in my late 20s. And so this is over a decade ago, well over a decade ago. If I could think back, I probably was maybe 27 or so at the time. And I was telling them, you know, I was thinking about opening up a cigar and wine bar because I was passionate about I like cigars, and I was just starting to get into wine, and I thought it would be cool, to own a place like that. And I was giving him some other ideas. He was in real estate, so I was asking him, what does he think I should do with the real estate? And he asked me to actually bring my investments and what my returns that I was getting on my investments in the market. And so at that time, I remember that year I got like 14, 15% returns in the market, which is decently high. And I'm showing up that day and I'm thinking that we're going to get all this quality time. And this guy's just going to tell me, here's how you take $1 million and easily, invest it into these things and you're going to have 10. That's what I was expecting to hear from the billionaire. And so the first thing he did is he opened up. It was the setting in the beginning was exactly what I expected, but the conversation was not exactly what I expected. So the setting in the beginning was so cool. I went to his office, and in his personal office, he had a ventilation system, and he opened up a box of cigars, handed me a cigar, and we started, he lit a cigar, and we started smoking cigars at like noon in the day. And I'm like, wow. I walked in, and this guy in his own office, he had a ventilation system to where he could just start smoking cigars. And I'm thinking like, all right, this is exactly, I wanted something different. I expected to hear something different and everything to be different. This is going the way I thought it was going to go. And first thing he does, he digs into the investments and he tells me that the 15% is too much. I thought he was going to be proud of me. He said it's too much. He said, in my opinion, if you could make that much at 15%, that means you could lose a whole lot. So he went over that, and then he said, now, in your own business, are you capped out? Are you in a position where you're completely capped out? You can't make any more money. You can't get any bigger in your own business. I said, no. He said, okay. And then he said, now let me ask you, if you were to open up this cigar and wine shop, that you're talking about, how much money do you think it's going to take to really get this thing, going? And we came up with $1 million because where I wanted it located and the way I wanted it to look. And he said, okay, so let's say you come up with you put $1 million into this thing. Now he said, what do you expect to make out of this place? What do you think's a normal return that you'll end up making? I said, I don't know, maybe 150, 100 grand, 200 grand, once it gets rolling. He said, okay. And how long do you think after you open it up, you expect it to turn a profit like that? Because it usually takes some time. So we said, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years to start spitting off a profit. And then he said, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you know cigars? I said, no, he said, not like 10 is somebody that knows cigars at a high level. At the time, I told him like a 5 or 6. He said, okay. Then he said, now wine. And now that I look back on, I probably gave myself too much credit, back then, because I probably would, if 10 is a black belt, like a sommelier, the people that just, your friends or people that just really know wine at a whole nother level, if that's a 10, I'm probably at a 6, right now. But I told him 5 or 6 back then, which probably, back then I probably was more of a 3 or a 4. But I said 5 or 6. So he said, okay. Now he said, now imagine if you put that $1 million into your own business, how well do you know your own business? I said 10. So he said, okay, if you put $1 million into your own business right now, how much do you think you would get in return? And I'm like, ding, light bulb goes off. And I'm like, whoa. I'm start thinking of offices that I could open up and things, staff that I could hire, and what I think we could do with that. And I'm like, double plus. And he's like, okay. So then he said, now one other question is, when you first open up this cigar and wine bar, don't think that you're not going to have to be there, because to get it going, probably people are going to come because of you. So how many hours a week do you think you're going to have to put into the cigar and wine shop? I said 20 hours, 30 hours a week. So He said, okay, now what if you put that extra 20, 30 hours a week? Because obviously if you got 20, 30 hours to spend over here, you would have 20 to 30 hours to spend in your own business. What if you took that extra 20, 30 hours a week and put it into your own business and the $1 million? How much money do you think you would get back then? And it made so much sense to me, that I'm like, man, I just got to go give that 20 hours instead of giving it over here to make $100,000. I'll give that 20 hours to some of my best up and coming talent in the business that I don't get enough time with, and I'll give them that time. And that $1 million I'll put into this or that resource. And that was the point where we went from, 4 or 5 offices, I think at the time, to, just having the focus of expansion and putting everything back into the business. And then, over time, he said, well, come back and see me on this subject when you've hit a max limit of, that you can't grow anymore. If you put all the money into your own business, it's not going to kick you back out, the returns. And don't come back and talk to me and ask me about that until you've maxed yourself out in your own business. He's like, people think that because I'm in the real estate business and I've made a lot of money here, that they need to get into the real estate business. He said that would be like me trying to get into the insurance business like you. And so I think oftentimes what happens is people see other people in that area. You'll see somebody and they say, oh, that person's a stock trader and they make a lot of money, so now I need to put my money into that. Or this person's in real estate and I know they make a lot of money, so I need to go jump and put my money into the real estate like them. That's their own business. And so if your business is yellow highlighters, you would make probably more money in putting your money back into the yellow highlighter business than putting it into the real estate business. If your main business is the sandpaper business, unless you've maxed yourself out in that business, if you put $50,000 back into the sandpaper business to the right area, you should be able to double that money easier than putting your $50,000 into the stock. Well, what stock should I buy or what real estate should I buy and doubling that? Because a good return is 10%. And at 10%, it would take you 7 years to double your money. But if you put your money back into your own business if you're in the pillow business and you put $50,000 into the pillow business in some way, you should be able to kick $100,000 back out easier than trusting in somebody else. And that was the other thing the guy told me is he said, I only try to get about 7% on my money. He said, I get 7% on my money because I take all my risk in my own business. So I put all my money into the real estate business. So this billionaire told me, he said, I only paid myself a couple $100,000 for like 20 years. So the billionaire said from like 25 to 45, all he did was pay himself a couple $100,000 and everything else he put back into the business. And so now people see him at 70 and they're like, oh man, this is the life. But what they don't see is he made a bunch of money for 20 years that he didn't give a ton to himself. He just kept putting it back into his own business. And he wasn't from taking risky moves outside of his own business. He said, all I needed to do was beat inflation and have some money set to the side was my strategy. And I'm taking the risk and betting on myself. I'm already taking enough risk. Owning your business or being an entrepreneur, being 1099 that is already a risk. So that's enough risk is what he was telling me. And then over here, let's not get too risky. He's like, I only make 10% over here. But also when other people lose their rear end, I don't usually lose my rear end either. Okay. And so that's just a little bit from that conversation. And over time, when I did not listen to that man's wisdom, when I started to get too cute and say, yeah, I think I got this figured out, billionaire might have not thought about these things, half the time I won, half the time I lost. And usually, just like the casino, people only talk about their wins. So they may have seen me win over here, or your friends may actually get and they dabble into other things. And it's just like if they bet on a game or something, they tell you about their wins, but they don't tell you about their losses. And so the message and what I have found so far, coming up in 17 years in business, is that guy is right. Don't be trying to catch a gazillion rabbits at the same time. Take a risk. If you're taking a risk, bet on yourself. Usually putting your money into your own business is going to blow out putting money in other places until you get to a position where you think that you're completely maxed out in your situation. Second thing is consistency. You know, you got to build one brick at a time. You can't look at somebody else's chapter 10 and try to build chapter 10. Just build one brick at a time. Work out 1 week. You know, it's like if you're inconsistent, then you work out 1 week and then you don't work out the next. Or you show up at class for 1 week and then you don't show up at class for the next. What works is knowing what you need to do and then doing it day in and day out, week in and week out, and not getting discouraged by the results not coming as fast as you want. Just keep showing up in the process consistently, keep putting into that process, and good things are going to happen. And then one of the other things you're going to have to manage that'll cause you to want to rush things is failure. Is that it's not that we should aim to fail. Okay, we don't want to fail. It's not that you want to aim to fail, but on your way to success, you're going to have failure. Not being real with yourself about failure is what causes people to quit. It's their relationship and unrealistic expectations. Every time that they have failure, they quit. Therefore, they end up quitting things a lot because the only way to get greatness is you have to go through some failure. So don't waste your failure. Learn from it. But failing at some things on the journey and working on it is how you reach your destination. So don't quit. And if you follow that process, you know, consistently, you'll get yourself to a position if you choose to just to diversify or whatever. And check out what Warren Buffett says about diversification too, because it'll surprise you. I think that'll surprise you also. But if you want to get to a place just for some odd reason, you know, you just want to diversify and stuff like that, your resources, there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. I understand. But what I have seen and been a part of is when you bet on others that you can't control, you're going to, you know, what I've seen is people win and lose at a 50-50 split or so. And typically the best odds in your favor to win is betting on yourself. And if you want to make an investment that's going to bring you the biggest return, it's usually in your own business. And the best way to create a cash cow where there's a huge influx of money or resources coming in that eventually over time you can invest into other things is to keep your main thing the main thing and go double down right now into the main thing and keep them the main thing for a long time. And don't let these people get you out of your game. When you start making a bunch of money, everybody's coming for it. Everybody got a Shark Tank idea. Everybody wants you to invest into this and invest into that. And you know what happens, just like the casino, is, you know, we will publish this person won $1 million on the slots, but they didn't publish the 4,000 people that lost their home in the process of taking their paycheck every week to the slots or to the casino. And so you'll see people get publicized, you know, that you know in your circle, or people that you know, this one, you know, they bet on something and they, you know, bet $100,000 and they made $1 million on the next glass, you know, the window was going to be made out of, or the next, you know, dog collar, you know, or whatever it is. And so everybody thinks they're going to get this, you know, get rich quick, you know, pop out there. And what ends up happening most of the time is you spin your wheels and lose a lot of money and lose a lot of time until you get to a position where those types of things I've started to look at as gambling. And so it's like, man, sometimes when I go to the casino, it's like I'll take a certain amount of money out, and if I lose it, I lose it. It's not gonna, I'm not gonna lose my kids' college education or something. And so I plan on losing it. And so if I win, great. But if not, that's great. And so sometimes I've looked at, some of these riskier investments as like, I'm just planning on, I might as well just go throw this at the casino on black because I got a 50-50 shot. If I put $100,000 down on black, it's a 50-50 shot that I'm going to win or lose. And a lot of these things are 50-50 shots on things. And so my experience, keep the main thing, go double down on your main thing, identify what are the main things that you could focus on in your process, focus on those, double down on those, don't rush the process, trust the process. 10 years is going to blow by before you know it, blink of an eye. If you keep doing the right things are going to come back on you, okay? So don't get hustled out there. Keep the main thing the main thing. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day.